My economic plan is all about jobs, dignity, respect, and community. Together we can and will rebuild our economy. There's not a single thing American workers can't do.
While accepting the Democratic nomination for president Thursday, Joe Biden promised to revitalize an American economy still reeling from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Donald Trump has made it a priority to appeal to white working-class voters and has mostly done so by stoking racial resentment and xenophobia among his base. But this week, did the DNC do enough to offer those voters an alternative vision to Donald Trump? Joining me now is Bishop William Barber, co-chairman of the Poor People's Campaign and author of We Are Called to Be a Movement. Bishop Barber, always great to see you. Thank you very much for being here this morning. So answer the question. Did the DNC do enough to offer those voters an alternative vision to Donald Trump?
Well, certainly it was good to talk about jobs. But listen, it is critical, Jonathan, for the DNC to engage poor and low-income voters. It's morally right, it's economically right, and it's numerically right. Since COVID, millions have been added to the already shameful number of 140 million poor and low-wealth people, 43% of this nation, 700 were dying a day before COVID. So the question is, what are you really willing to talk about openly? We hear working, but we don't hear poor. Are you willing to talk about living wages, guaranteed health care, guaranteed sick leave, expanding the Voting Rights Act, stopping the injustice against Latino people and Native people as a first 100-day agenda? We have 74 million women, mostly white, who are poor and low wealth before COVID. 25% of the electorate are poor and low wealth. 61% of all black people are poor and low wealth. Every voter suppression state is a high poverty, lack of living wage state. 15 states, Jonathan, less than 1 to 19% increase in poor and low wealth voters organized around the agenda could change the Senate and presidential races. How can you not say the word poor? How can you not talk about low income specifically? And that is the critical thing that Democrats, I believe, better understand. Dems will say poverty when they're in an audience of poor and low wealth people, but when they get before the world, somehow they can only say working. They can only say working. Well, 62 million working Americans are poor and low income, and many of them have not voted because they have not heard their issues or they have not been talked to. And when we leave them off the table, that is a problem.
Bishop Barber, that argument you just made, I have heard you make that argument many times over the years. This was your primary complaint in 2016, that the word poor was never used on the campaign trail and certainly not used during the debates. Why don't politicians, Democrat and Republican, use the word poor?
Or low income. Well, you know, when you're trapped in a neoliberalism vision of the world, if on the Republican side they racialize poverty, on the Democrat side they run for poverty or they use these metaphors. Now, they're going to get mad at me for saying that, but go back and look at all the debates. Go back for years and for years and years. They do not say the word. They do not talk about that specifically. Now, they talk about Dr. King, but Dr. King talked about the poor. I mean, this is the anniversary week of the March on Washington. He talked about the poor, those living on an island of poverty, and said that the whirlwinds of the revolt would continue to happen until we address the issue of poverty and racism. So I'm not always sure why. I know I've been told the consultants tell them not to. They tell them poor people don't want to hear the word poor. That is foolishness. If you want to have a massive reckoning and a reconstruction, it requires expanding the electorate and engaging poor and low-income voters. That's where the expansion is. That's where the power is. That's where the power is. All the states that Trump won can be changed by organizing the poor. And it doesn't take everybody. It's less than 19%, Jonathan. And one other thing, Jonathan, one of the things I don't understand, and why in September, we are organizing a Voting is Power Unleashed. Hundreds of thousands of poor and low-wealth people are coming together to train ourselves on voter protection and voter participation, because we're not going to be silent anymore. When Democrats refuse to address this, you talked about the Southern strategy. When they refuse to organize and bring poor and low-wealth voters, they guarantee Trump 170 electoral votes out of the South. They leave the door wide open to him because he's not running for the popular vote victory. And by leaving so many poor and low-wealth people off the table by name and by issue, they also get 26 seats guaranteed toward a Republican Senate majority. It makes no sense politically. It makes no sense, and it has to be changed if we're serious about having a reckoning and a reconstruction of this society and this culture.
Bishop William Barber, I'm not going to gild the lily by asking you another question. You took us to church on a Saturday and gave us a very important message. So thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Take care.